Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Devon Terrell, and welcome to another Help Me Devon plugin review. And today, in this Help Me Devon plugin review, we'll be looking at the God Particle, brought to you by Cradle and Jason Joshua. This plugin has been getting a lot of attention as of lately on the internet, and it is worth every review instance that it is receiving. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a song. I'm going to bypass back and forth with the guard particle and without the guard particle in this actual session. And let's just hear what it does. Off rip, out the gate. And of course, we'll deep dive into the plugin, the ideology, the parameters and stuff like that. But let's just listen to what this thing does off rip to your mix. Let's do it. So what I'm gonna play for you right now is one of my own songs. It's called Act 4, produced by a friend of mine named Buggy. And let's just take a listen back and forth. I'm gonna bypass it of what this thing does. So without first, listen close.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do. And I know you know my body. If I got you by my side, then who the gon' stop me? Cause we was good together, but we went and it up. And we can never be together, but I don't wanna leave you in the past, no. If you don't wanna play, press fast forward.
Now, if you have ears, you can clearly hear this plugin really sonically enhances the characteristics of your mix, what's already there. Now, before we go any further, I want to say this. I want to take off the limiter that is in this plugin. Why do I want to take off this limiter and just let you hear that? Because I don't want you to think to yourself, well, it's just getting louder. I want you to hear a more level match kind of sound so you can actually hear what it's doing. And of course, like I said, then we'll dive deeper into the plugin. So right now, I'm going to take the limiter off completely. Yes, this plugin has a limiter built into it. I'm going to take that off and let you hear it for what it is without the limiter. Listen close. This is very important to do it this way. So I'm taking a limiter, taking it completely off, and bypass first.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do. And I know you know my body. If I got you by my side, then who the gon' stop me? Cause we was good together, but we went it up. And we can never be together, but I don't wanna leave you in the past, no. If you don't wanna play, press fast.
So that was a lot closer of a comparison as far as you being able to hear the sonic enhancements that occurred or the dynamic changes that occurred without it feeling like that got really loud, that was really quiet. Hold on one sec. Just make sure you comment, like, and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. So sorry, have to do that. Back to the video. Now, let's dive deep into this plugin that I am now using on everything and help you understand a little bit more what is actually happening. I've also reverse engineered this plugin to show you from another standpoint what's actually happening really deeply into this. I'm a big fan of Jason Joshua. When I first seen this plugin hit the market and when he first announced it, a lot of us in the engineering community knew off the bat that this is off the branch of a tree that he has been teaching people for a long time. He has a Mix with the Master series, which I highly recommend. And basically, he showed at the end of his stereo bus this very special preset that he uses for most of his mixes, where it was an ozone preset from iZotope, and it was something that he used basically to control dynamics from his mid-range, upper mids, lows, as well as a little bit of stereo imaging. And as soon as this plugin came out, I knew deep down that this was a branch off of that tree. He would use the iZotope ozone preset that he had to mix into to help him understand, or better yet, to see where he was making mistakes, where he had too much of something. And he basically had it set up in a certain way that he would put on the end of his stereo mix bus every single time to basically help him understand what's actually happening under the hood, as he says, to his mixes. It also, there was some multi-band compression that was helping raise his mid-range. He had some stuff on the low end to help control it. And the way it reacted within his preset in ozone was how he basically went about mixing into it so that when he mixed, he had an idea of what was actually happening and how to make it better. So when I opened up the God particle and I used it, I immediately said to myself, he just literally turned that into a plugin with some extra bells and whistles as well to boot. So one of the biggest things that he says about this plugin is he wants you to mix into it. So not really something that you just mix, put it on and then let that be the sonic enhancement of the mix or the fix. But better yet, put this on, mix into it so that you can see what is actually happening as you're going along and mixing. Do you have too much low end? Do you have too much mid range? Is there too much high end? Do you need more high end? And that type of thing. So he wants you to look at it like it's a console. And this is his words exactly. And his thing was he wanted to look at it like every time I put my mix through this SSL, through this Neve, or through any of those consoles, there's a certain sound that it has. There is harmonic distortion or saturation that it has. There's a stereo widening kind of or imaging that these boards have. There's literally just a general sound that these boards have. And now he's looking at this particular plugin like it is a console. As soon as you put your mix into this God particle or console, it has a sound that he's been looking for, and he feels like he's accomplished it in his plugin, and I love it. So that's a little bit of the ideology behind it. More or less, it's kind of like a sonic enhancer, but at the same time, it's a way for you to check yourself. And that's the biggest tidbit I take away from this is going to be a plugin that is going to help me check myself according to his ideology. I'll explain that a little bit more down the line. But let's get into it. The thing that we're going to test right now, first and foremost, is the parameters, so you can understand this plugin. So let's go through the parameters of this plugin and get you a better understanding of how this thing works internally. Let's do it. So this is the God particle. And first thing I'm going to show you is this EQ section. And what is this EQ section? What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, and I'm going to let you just see what it is.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends, but here we are, begging for loving again.
So as you can see in the EQ section, which it's basically two sides. One is a place where you can actually boost and cut, and the other side is kind of showing you a little bit of a GUI that is helping you understand what is happening in these particular frequency spectrums. So as you can see, my mids, which is right here, was hitting in the green. My lows were also hitting in the green. Look again.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends, but here we are, begging for loving again.
Now, according to Jason Joshua's curve, and yes, this is his curve, and this is his belief in, oh, this is just the right amount of mids, this is just the right amount of lows, and this is just the right amount of highs. If I feel like my lows, or if I see that my lows are below this green region, guess what? You come on over to here and you boost that. And this is giving you a closer representation of what Jason Joshua believes is a better mix for him in general. So check this out.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends, but here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do.
So now I'm more consistently hitting that mid-range right there as far as what Jason Joshua has depicted as a better place. Now, the reason why I keep saying according to Jason Joshua is because I know that the God particle and Jason Joshua is planning to release another iteration of this plugin where you can actually put in frequency curves of your favorite artists, engineers like Mike Will, like Dave Pensado. This is something that he's been talking about as far as saying, well, Mike Will feels like the mid-range should be right this much as far as your mix is concerned. And now you'll be able to put that in, and all of those things like this, that's basically saying this is the sweet spot, will move according to what Mike Will believes it is, Dave Pensado, all of your other favorite engineers. So, of course, this is kind of subjective in that sense, where it's like, okay, this is what Jason Joshua has deemed as this is a good range. I trust Jason Joshua. He's a accomplished mix engineer. So of course I'm going to take his advice when it comes to what he thinks and what he finds as reasonable ranges. I just want you to understand what this is happening and what these are based off of, as far as like who said that this is the optimal range for an actual mid-range or highs or lows. Now, one thing you'll notice is that my high end wasn't hitting green at all. One thing that I've investigated with the plugin and what Jason Joshua has said is that it's not going to be all the time that you're going to hit this high range right here. He said once in a blue, you'll hit that green in that high, in this high range right here that says that's optimal. But he says for the most part, it's only sometimes. But he said one thing's for sure. If it goes past that, you're too hot and you had too much. So that's basically the ideology as far as that parameter is concerned on the actual plugin. So I'll put this back. The other thing right here is the mystery button that I think a lot of people are having conversation about. And this is called the amount, or what Jason Joshua describes as the magic. And to me, what I'm noticing with the magic is that it's adding harmonic content to your actual sound. So let's bring it down and let's bring it up. I'm also going to show you a frequency curve that's going to show you the before and after of what it's truly doing. So stick around for that too. So let's just test out and see what this amount does. So let's turn it all the way down. Check it out.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do. And I know you know my body. If I got you by my side, then who the f gon' stop me? Cause we was good together, but we went and it up. And we can never be together, but I don't wanna leave you.
So I hear that sonic enhancement. I can feel the mid-range get more crispy and more open and more saturated. And I just hear a lot of things happening. There's a lot of harmonics that are being added into this, as he calls the magic. And it sounds really nice. Even when you have it cranked up to the 200% mark, you'll notice that you get a volume difference, of course, but it's not such a drastic thing, which is so powerful. And what I always preach about mixing, when you try to do these huge moves and you alter everything, it really has a nice way of taking what's there and just adding upon that to enhance it, as opposed to trying to alter the sound. I really like the amount button. He calls it magic. What I'm noticing it is harmonic content being added into that signal. Saturation, if you would like to say. Odd order harmonics. I'm not going to get that deep into that, but just know something is being added into that signal. Okay. The other thing on this plugin is the limiter. And I showed you this before as far as just taking it off, but when you first put the plugin on, you'll notice that it is already 5 dB in. So the limiter is engaged by 5 dB. So let's turn it all the way down and then let's turn it up. Watch this.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do.
So that's pretty self-explanatory. And I really like the limiter on this. I'm actually very impressed by it because it feels really transparent. Feels like it's just taking what's there and saying, I'm just going to bring you up level-wise. Now, granted, if you're taking your mix and you're bouncing it, of course, you want to turn this limiter off because you're giving it to a mastering engineer. But nonetheless, if you're mastering your own song, you can use the limiter of the guard particle. But just know that when you're sending a mix to a mastering engineer, I would suggest taking off that limiter completely. Something else you need to realize about this limiter, and something Jason Joshua has preached, which I preach as well, is mixing with the limiter on. And that's something I am a big fan of mixing with the limiter on. And that's another reason why this limiter is here. Jason Joshua also has suggested to mix with the limiter on, only because if you wait until the end of your mix to basically throw the limiter on, then you're going to find out in that moment what your mix is made of. You're going to find out if your transients are tame. You're going to find out if your mix is actually pretty small or pretty big, as opposed to mixing with the limiter on and then shaping your transients to that limiter reacting in the moment so that you won't have any surprises down the line. Because I'm going to assume if you're doing modern day music, you're going to have a limiter at the end of it. So why not mix into the limiter to see exactly how it's going to react and make sure that you're actually compensated for it right then and there before anything happens. So that's the limiter for the most part. The other thing we have right here, and this is the last thing I'll show you, is basically the input and the output. And what you can look at the input and output as is kind of like a threshold. And this is something that he's mentioned as well. So when I look at the input, I want you to pay attention to this side right here. And this is kind of saying, once again, from Jason Joshua's standpoint, this is an optimal range that's hitting as far as a sweet spot for the God particle, for you to get accurate readings and things of that nature. So this is the sweet spot that you, quote unquote, should be hitting in order to get accurate readings as far as what he's deemed on these curves and everything else for its reaction. So let's see where this is hitting right now, and let's compensate until we're hitting really in that green.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that that they know me like you do.
So as you can see, I'm hitting in the green. I'm in the sweet spot, which means that this is quote unquote the optimal range for me to be bringing volume or sound or amplitude into the plugin for me to get the most out of the plugin. What I'll notice is that it's hitting basically around that -3 dB range, which makes me say, oh, this is kind of an optimal range when it comes to mixes. When I'm sending it out for mastering engineers, it's a little bit of headroom. So it's not saying the optimal range is you got to hit 0. It's saying, hey, just a little below that, which is kind of a range where we usually send it to mastering engineers around that -4, -6, -3 dB range. So I think that's where you should be aiming for as far as your final sound, as far as that -3 dB range, in order to get the most optimal things out of this particular plugin. Important. Okay, so I know earlier that I was talking to you guys about something very important regarding reverse engineering this plugin. Now, if you remember earlier, I mentioned some stuff about the iZotope plugin that Jason Joshua did years ago, showing us his stereo master bus and stereo mix bus, and showing us his iZotope Ozone plugin that he has a preset that does some things to basically all of his mixes that he throws on and mixes into, just like the guard particle. So I'm going to show you my interpretation of basically reverse engineering his preset and his plugin. I actually got this preset from, at first, I really got this preset from a YouTube channel called Two Pro Beats. I forgot it. I'll put it right here. You'll see it right here. Awesome YouTube channel. I scoured the internet trying to find someone that recreated his iZotope Ozone preset. A lot of us did, and this guy had a download for it. And I took his download and basically manipulated it even more to my liking to get to that Jason Joshua sound before this guard particle even came out. And when I A/B my version that I re-engineered versus the guard particle, I get similar results. I'm not saying it's entirely the same, but at least you'll be able to get to see, hey, this is kind of the settings that were set up on this guard particle. So I'm going to show you this right quick, and I'm basically going to open up my Ozone plugin. So let's take this off. Let's just bypass the guard particle. And this is my Ozone plugin. And this is my Jason Joshua preset. So it consists of dynamics, imager, and a little bit of excitement. When Jason Joshua dropped the Mix with the Master series, these are kind of the things that he had set up inside his preset on Ozone. So I kind of copied those. Shout out to, I think, 2 Pro Beats. That basically redid and re-engineered the whole thing in the newest version of Ozone so that we can kind of use it. And then I took that and expounded upon it even more. So we found that basically he had his low band, and he's using a multi-band compressor. He had his low band at about 161, the high band at about 3.3 kilohertz, and then the other one at about, obviously, 3.3 kilohertz and above. Check out how this thing reacts. I'm going to bypass this back and forth, and this is my reverse engineering of the guard particle. And then I'll show you exactly all the parameters so we can see in the back end what's happening. So without first.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that I want you, I can't pretend that they know me like you do. And I know you know my body. If I got you by my side, then who the f gon' stop me? Cause we was good together, but we went and it up. And we can never be together, but I don't wanna leave you in the past, no. If you don't wanna play, press fast forward. Baby, be careful what you ask for.
Now, I'm not saying that it sounds exactly like the guard particle, but what I'm saying is it's in a place where basically you get a sense of how the guard particle kind of works. And I'm going to show you internally how I have this Ozone 9 set up, and maybe to give you an even deeper understanding of how the guard particle is kind of working and some of the bells and whistles that Jason Joshua has been preaching for a long time, especially in that Mix with the Master series, which is amazing. And I've scoured the internet for this for years and found it and use it. I've been using it for a long time. So in the dynamic section, we're getting about 3 dB of gain reduction, which is something that I noticed on the guard particle. For the optimal levels, that's what I'm getting. Pay attention to this gain reduction.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again.
So I'm getting around 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction on that section. The low end, I noticed I was getting about 2 dB of gain reduction. So peep this.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump, we'll never be friends. But here we are, begging for loving again.
Same thing, about 1.6 on the guard particle I was getting, and I made sure that I matched that and kind of have it the same way. Then he has it on the high end, and on the high end, remember, we barely was getting any high end to even hit the green, which is the same thing right here.
Talking again, yeah, told you from the jump we'll never be friends, but here we are, begging for loving again. But you know that.
So, you may be saying to yourself, as far as the guard particle, is there any stereo imaging or stereo tricks that is happening within it? To my ears, and I'm going to show you a frequency spectrum analyzer, to my ears, I can feel a little bit of an opening. I feel like a little bit of frequency manipulation has been done on the imaging side, and it kind of opens up a little bit. I could be very wrong, but to my ears, it's pleasing. And in his old isotope ozone preset, he had a little bit of the imaging opening up some stuff in that upper midsection. So if I go on over to my imager, I have it right here, right here, and it's opening up on the upper mids a little bit, just a little bit. It's just opening up on the mid range and kind of opening up that mix. Then on this side, I have the exciter exciting the entire mix to give me some more harmonic content into that thing, just like the guard particle, just a little bit, just to kind of brighten up its day. So for the very last thing, let's look at these EQ curves in comparison to what is actually happening within the actual guard particle. So right now, let me just open up my EQ curves. Here we go. And this is going to show me what is happening before and after within the guard particle. So let's have this right here. I'm going to open this up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this EQ. So this is showing us what is happening after the guard particle is engaged within the actual plugin. So as you can see, if I bypass it, it's flat. Just so you can understand what this EQ curve plugin is doing. It's flat, meaning nothing is happening. And now it's showing me what is being boosted, what is being cut within this plugin after it's engaged. So when we look at this and analyze it, right, you can clearly see right here that there is somewhat of a dip at the 2K range. So basically there is a cut on the high end at that 2K range going straight down at about 2.5 dB. So there is still a little bit of a boost to everything, because think about it. If I bypass this, this is 0 right here. This whole thing is 0. But if I engage it, it boosts the whole thing. So everything is being boosted, but there is a fall off right here at this range. What I think this fall off is basically giving us is the feeling of warmth. And I know what you may be saying, well, warmth, wouldn't we add a low end frequency for that? Not entirely. A lot of times, if you realize, if you cut some of that top end off of a sound, it can feel warmer. So I think that's something that he's incorporated into the plugin to feel very analog sounding and very warm sounding, very thick, by giving a little bit of more emphasis to that mid-range and low end, as opposed to trying to make some plugin that just makes the high end bright, which is something that happens a lot with a lot of different things. So I'm noticing that he's boosting that mid-range, cutting that high end, and then giving a little bit of a boost in that low end, but most of the stuff is being emphasized in the mid-range. Look at the curve. As you can see in the curve, there is a boost from about 200 hertz to about 2000 hertz, which is that mid-range. And then there's really just a boost as well at about the 100 hertz range for about 2.5 dB. But for the most part, all the boosting is done, a lot of the boosting is done right here at a maximum of about 4 dB. So this is a 4 dB boost in the mid-range, about, let's say, 1 dB boost in the high end, and then about a 3 dB boost in the low end spectrum of the thing. Now, let's take a look at the amount. As I crank the amount, let's see what it does to the curve. As you can see, it's rising as I'm putting this up. So it's boosting that mid-range, it's boosting the high end, it's boosting the low, it's boosting everything, but really it's taking its curve, which the curve is a big boost in the mid-range at about 4 dB, and it's just bringing everything up uniformly. That's what it's really doing. It doesn't seem like it's trying to lower the low end, the high end even more. It's really saying, okay, I'm going to start off with this curve. And if you add to me, I'm just going to raise everything right up the same. So this is really important to see. Now, when it comes to the EQ section, as far as the parameters that I showed you, let's see what that is actually doing. If I boost the mids, look at that. At about 600 hertz, that seems to be basically where the middle of the EQ is arriving from. So 600 hertz is being boosted when you boost that mid-range. So anytime you're trying to boost that mid-range, it seems that Jason Joshua has put it in that 600 hertz range to give it that kind of feel of the mid-range being risen. For the high end, you could tell, and this is so great. I love that they did this, and I'm going to tell you something about this that I think is special. I see a boost at about the 10 kilohertz range when it comes to the high end. What I appreciate is that he's not boosting the 3 kilohertz range, which I deem as the pain frequency, which I know that if I boosted that, or if there was a boost there, the mix would feel more harsh as far as everything is concerned. So I really do appreciate them paying attention to detail with not really tampering with that 3 kilohertz range a lot, because that's a range that I try to stay away from. And then in the low end is boosting at around that 100 hertz range. So that's what he's deeming as this is the low end right here. And all of these things can be used to compensate for the other. So that's a really, really surfaced, yet kind of more intuitive and in-depth review of the God particle and all of its greatness as far as what it's doing. I'll be using this on a lot of my mixes for sure. I'll be mixing right into it just to kind of see where I'm making my mistakes and things of that nature. I really hope you guys enjoy that. Please subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed that video. And also, make sure you visit helpmedevon.com for some of our presets, vocal chains, and a bunch of other goodies to support this channel. I really hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what other plugins you want me to review in the comments below. And until next time.